I'm Christy Bilbrey. After working in a Senate press office, the White House, and corporate, I started my own business and realized none of those experiences taught me how to market myself. Thankfully, I discovered how brand storytelling and strategy could help me easily connect with others, promote my services, and grow my brand. I created the Business That Story Built podcast to help business leaders strengthen the stories we tell ourselves and the stories we tell others. Ready to take your mindset and messaging to the next level? Let's get started. Welcome back. I had planned a very different take on today's episode, but due to a huge update yesterday, I am changing the way I'm talking about today's subject. You've probably seen this all over social media and the news for the past week. It's been pretty hard to escape the PR crisis surrounding the rollout of Cracker Barrel's rebrand. If you followed me at all, you know that my PR philosophy is all about authenticity and showcasing what makes you unique in your brand and developing deep connections with your core audience. Well, Cracker Barrel is showing what happens when you forget all of that. On August 18th, it rolled out a rebrand, and instead of delighting their audience, they felt betrayed and abandoned. So here's what happened. Basically, if you haven't heard, it rolled out a rebrand that swapped the cozy, kitschy, nostalgic feel for something that is described as bland and sterile. Some called it soulless, and they were not shy about being vocal about this. So they basically went on social media. They flooded the comments of Cracker Barrel's posts. They created their own videos that went viral. Every news outlet you can think of was piling on negative news stories every single day tracking this. And this was not, Cracker Barrel's response was not the way that you follow PR crisis management protocol. So basically what happens in PR crisis management, first you make sure that you're listening to hear when there is an issue with your core audience. Second, you admit there is a problem, and then you go and you connect with the people and listen to their feedback, their concerns, what would help them, what would make this right. Then you turn that feedback into action and you make changes. And finally, you transparently tell people, look, we were wrong. Here's what we are doing to make this right. Well, here's the approach that Cracker Barrel took. And not to mention, in addition to all of the negative publicity, their stock tanked. As of Monday, it was down $143 million. So this was a very costly mistake in addition to just bad PR and potentially losing a lot of business. So initially, Cracker Barrel said, look, most of the people really like this rebrand, and it's a vocal minority who's against it. So they were writing off their most loyal customers by calling them a vocal minority. And then they said, okay, we hear you, but basically we're going to do it anyway. So pretty condescending. Also, not the right response in terms of PR crisis management. So then what they did late yesterday, they said, we appreciate your voices and we are going to bring back the logo. So they had changed the logo. There was someone named Uncle Herschel who was a man leaning against a barrel in the logo. And apparently this was the founder's real uncle, and a lot of the values of Cracker Barrel were based on him. He was a salesman who traveled around, would go to country stores, sit in rocking chairs, as he said, sit a spell, and talk to the customers. So this was very much the embodiment of Cracker Barrel, what it represented. So they had removed that and removed some of the antiques in their stores and given it a much cleaner, streamlined approach, which is not what people go to Cracker Barrel for. Menu changes, a lot of changes. So bringing back the logo is a really good first step. But we'll see what happens as they continue. Is that all they're going to do? Because that alone is not going to address the concerns and frustrations that their loyal customers have brought up. So we'll see how this plays out, but it is a very good first step to turning this around. Now, there are other brands who've been in the same situation where stock plummets, public outrage, and they survived. So one is Coca-Cola in 1985. They rolled out New Coke. They changed the formula for Coca-Cola and people were not happy. I mean, it was a huge outrage. People did not think Coca-Cola was going to survive, but they did. They admitted they made a mistake. They brought back the original formula, called it Coca-Cola Classic, so people would know they were getting what they had always come to love from the brand, and they survived. Obviously, they're still around today. So it doesn't mean the end is here for Cracker Barrel. They could definitely turn it around, but it's going to take more steps than what they have done so far. So for you, here are some takeaways that I recommend. Make sure that if something happens, you are already listening. You're listening on social media, you're listening to your core audience. If they have concerns, you want to listen early, not late. When you listen late, that makes everything worse because we know Cracker Barrel was not paying attention. They weren't acknowledging their customers' feelings until really late in the game. And then next, you need to protect what makes you special, right? So I talked about that earlier with my philosophy of PR, but Cracker Barrel is very unique. It's not every other chain restaurant, right? There's specific characteristics that make it Cracker Barrel, and they should be protecting those. They should be celebrating those. So what is that about your brand that makes you unique? Because that will draw the right people, and you really want to amp that up. And third is turning feedback into action. So when you do find out that there are issues and you're able to drill down and find out specifically what are the problems, what can you do to address them, then you need to make that public. You need to say, look, here's what we did. Here's what we're going to do to help calm people down and bring people back. So the new logo, it wasn't just symbolic. It showed that by bringing back the old logo, that loyal voices do still matter to Cracker Barrel and that can shape the brand's future. So let's see how this continues to play out, but a good first step. The other thing that I would recommend to you, in addition to those steps, if you are ever in a PR crisis, is to have a PR crisis plan in place. Because if you go to episode 65 of my podcast, I interviewed Pat Ford, who was I think he was the worldwide vice chair and US CEO of Burson Marsteller, which was one of the biggest PR firms in the world. And he was on to talk about crisis management. And he gave really good steps about how to create a PR crisis plan beforehand, because he said, when you are in the middle of a PR crisis, it is like the fog of war. It's playing out in real time. It's happening all around you in the public. Emotions are high, miscommunications are constant, there's heavy emotions, a lot can go wrong fast. So the best thing you can do is have a plan in place, know who is responsible for what, know the communication flow, exactly what you're going to do, who you're going to reach out to, and how that's going to work. So make sure to check out episode 65 if you want to learn more about that. And thank you so much for listening or watching. And until next time, this is The Business That's Story Built. How are you growing your brand? Are you targeting the right people, developing the right relationships, and consistently getting the visibility and credibility that you need to grow your business? Whether you need a plan that's small or large in scale, our PR firm and consulting services can design and implement what your business needs to grow. To schedule a free call and learn how we can partner with you, email Christie@ChristieBilbrey.com. That's CHRISTIE@CHRISTIEBILBREY.com.